Souls-like is the genre for the most challenging video games of all time that altered the standards of game design. Well, that's what you believe. In reality, it's for unfair rage games with subpar optimization, unbalanced gameplay that refused to die, lack of functional difficulty settings, and questionable decisions from developers. I'll tell you why, because Souls-like and Dark Souls are garbage. Dark garbage. When Dark Souls was for consoles in 2011, it had good graphics that aged well, but it wasn't optimized at all. The Xbox 360 and PS3 versions are supposed to run at 30 FPS, but never stayed consistent in the hardest parts of the game. There's lack of low poly models, boss fights and particle effects reach 20 FPS, and many occasions such as New Rondo, The Bridge, and Blighttown dip to 15 FPS. Enemies with performance issues are giant and hard. Dale, the Asylum Demon, Talos Demon, Sif, and the gigantic rat of the sewers. From Software had given time and effort to visuals, but that's at the cost of performance. Instead of running Dark Souls at 60 FPS, like Super Mario Galaxy, it runs at 20, giving an unfair time to gamers. The PC port of Dark Souls Prepare to Die was made after a fan petition. However, From Software lacked experience with PC porting. Instead of giving that job to other studios, the team made the port by itself, and it was the worst decision. The production value was a gigantic red flag. The port was rushed to be released in 2012 and all devs were crunching. So, overworking, rushed port, console to PC conversion, and no dev knew about the freaking optimizations. The PC version was an abortion. The resolution and frame rate were stuck at 720p and 30 FPS. Performance issues that persisted from the console version, atrocious keyboard controls, unresponsive inputs, and no key mapping. The only way to bring some fixes was the S-Fix, a mod made by fans. Has the programming improved for Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring? Yes, but not enough. The newer ports have improved controls and options, but are still an unoptimized mess. My reaction to Dark Souls Remastered was...
Yes, but that alone is insufficient.
Yes, it has some improvements like better effects, 60 FPS, decent keyboard controls, UI scaling, and multiple screen resolutions. But that's the bare minimum. There's only 5 graphic settings. Where's the options for texture quality, anisotropic filter, the graphically intense shadows and polygons? Why does it run only at 60 FPS? Even Minecraft has higher frame rates. And most important, where's the easy mode? The Mastered was fine, but not good enough. I know Bandai Namco and other studios were responsible for this version, but that doesn't excuse its state. FromSoft has only hard difficulty for players, and no, it didn't get me good, but depressed. Was standard mod to reduce damage from enemy attacks, and was easy mod to simplify AI and movesets. I'm angry because there's lack of accessibility. How are beginners supposed to learn if there's only a tutorial for inputs? Why me as a player was stuck with absurdly smart and fast bosses that almost one-shotted me? That's not just a matter of deaths and HP, it's a matter of speed, AI, skills, and margin of error. Okay, FromSoft, keep your hardcore fanbase, but having easy mod is not a tragedy, it's something up to the player. Your fans can play the classic mod, while me and others can enjoy the easy mod. Seriously, if there's no difficulty settings or any kind of assist mod, I'm out of here. Soulsborne always blurs the line between challenging and unfair due to an uneven difficulty curve. Challenging games can be done right, however they need a consistent difficulty and well-designed enemies. But Soulsborne has none of that! Dark Souls has a challenging beginning, but its difficulty inflates itself right after the tutorial boss, due to strong and smart enemies after Firelink Shrine, especially the Red Wyvern. It also gets unfair when you consider poor design choices, clunky and limited movements for the main character, inaccurate lock-on system, awkward platforming, 4-directional roll during lock-on, fights in narrow spaces that get you stuck, enemies that stunlock you to death, bosses that one-shot you, 2 bosses that fight together, lack of bonfires, and especially the end game. Seriously, if this difficulty is so unfair, I'm gonna complain about it. That's hard for the wrong reasons. Hit bosses and collisions are mostly inaccurate due to developers taking care of realism instead of gameplay, and Dark Souls is no exception. Bosses have collisions much larger than them and their attacks. This can mess you up if you use a bow and dodge rolls. This happens to Stray Demon, Taurus Demon, Titanite Demon, Iron Golem, Moonlight Butterfly, Bed of Chaos, Artorias, and especially Kalamith the Dragon. Even common enemies do that, by damaging and grabbing you despite your dodge rolls and social distancing. And lastly, arrows are stuck between fences and gaps, landing midair. This was in both the original and remastered, despite there were resources to fix it. And yes, even other Souls-like have this problem. If we don't focus our efforts on better collisions, we really failed gaming.
Focus!
Soulsborne always made leveling up broken, especially Dark Souls. Stats are useful for specific things like weapons and magic, but doesn't make your character resistant since it raises HP and stamina without doing much regarding defense. High-level players struggle in the same manner as low-level ones, due to bosses still doing lots of damage. Also, enemies never drop enough souls, so grinding takes too long. RPGs have level ups since the 1980s, but Dark Souls made them almost meaningless. The boss design is intricate but ineffective. It violates game design principles and complicates things when unneeded. Messy at best, unplayable at worst. Ceaseless Discharge is a joke and entirely cheesable. Go back to the fog door to punch him. Demon Fire Sage and Stray Demon are inferior reskins of Asylum Demon. Moonlight Butterfly is made for range attacks. Sword fighters have to painfully wait. Many bosses like Iron Golem are squeezed in smaller arenas. Capra Demon has an army of dogs. Centipede Demon has poorly placed lava. Nito has an army of skeletons and overpowered intoxication. Artorias and Manus are too fast for the playable character. Ornstein and Smaw fight as a fast duo. Calamite, Four Kings, and Bed of Chaos are certified messes. Only 1/3 of them are decent. Asylum Demon has a tutorial boss, Sif in a large space, and Gwyn has an epic boss fight. But they're few and far between, hidden inside garbage. I'd rather spin Mario 64 Bowser instead of sleeping with Bed of Chaos. The second half, it takes the bad design of the first one and exacerbates it to 11. Its zones have enemies spam, crappy boss design, lack of bonfires, and more. New Rondo Ruins has the duo of no bonfires and unbalanced ghost enemies. They do too much damage and pass through walls. Lost Isolate has spam of powerful falls, obnoxious lava, and crappy bosses. Duke's Archives spam enemies again. Crystal Caves have invisible paths. And lastly, Tomb of Giants is almost pitch black, with overpowered skeletons lurking in the darkness. The only light sources are limited and rare. The only good thing about the final half is the Lord Vessel. It helps with exploration and adds fast travel to the best bonfires. After the fight against Gwyn, you have two endings. One, light the bonfire of the arena to continue the Age of Fire. 2, exit the arena to become a Dark Lord. The problem with the second ending is it doesn't have a different route. You just need to play again. At least it's different in Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, thanks to specific routes for different endings. There are many ways to make video games, but trolling the player is not allowed. However, there's plenty of trolling made by FromSoft and Miyazaki himself, like the basics, patches that kicks you off the ledge, the entirety of Crystal Caves, the death in Duke's Archives, and the entirety of Sense Fortress. For me, the worst is Anno Rondo. Inside, I got knives thrown at me on the rafters, risking falling if I made a 1mm misstep. While outside, I fought the archers. These are the worst. They're unbalanced, mandatory to fight, and shoot heavy arrows with knockback, using the Dragon Slayer bow with impressive speed. Also, why are they positioned in small ledges? That's not a fair fight. This trolling is just unprofessional and lazy. Instead of playing a fair fight, the players get trolled like in Seobon Action and Reddit. All of this is so vile and offensive. I wish this abusive trolling gets sued lawfully. The online mode is so sad, such an unnecessary feature that did more harm than good. Sure, online rocks if done right. SRB2 cart is an exciting way to do that, but it shouldn't be in everything, and Dark Souls is a good example. Because there are trolls, cheaters, and players that invade you during the human form. They use meta builds with weapons and magic much stronger than you. Summoning friends is not helpful at all. You have to go on the summon sign and do some ritualistic stuff, but most summons are broken or lose connection. And lastly, to do co-op, you have to be online. Where's local co-op? I feel bad for multiplayer people. They deserve better. The ESRB is known for its wrong age ratings, and it also missed its shot in Soulsborne. Most of them are rated M for mature, the video game version of MPAA's R rating, due to blood and gore, violence and partial nudity. I saw the quote-unquote mature contents of Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 1 and 3, but their maturity is the same as PG-13 movies. The violence is there, but never extreme. The gore is limited to decapitating a hydra, and the nudity of the main character is always covered in cloth in case the armor is gone. That's not GTA and Mortal Kombat. This Soulsborne should be rated 13+, T14, period. Before the final part, here there are many dishonorable mentions. No FOV options, no pause button, no 4x3 and 21x9 screens support, mandatory autosave, no save file copies in the menu. No, really. No boss rush mode, unfair DLC, lack of invincibility frames, hard to find spells, dumb ragdoll physics for dead bodies, only two genders for character creation, and LGBT phobia in Gwyndolin's lore. There's obviously more, but let's move on. Let's talk about speciesism. FromSoft portrayals of non-human animals and beastmen are as enemies at best, but as punching bags at worst. Both depictions are wrong because it promotes a speciesist mindset. Sif is a giant wolf from the Darkroot Garden. He fights with a sword and that's cool, but... he's also a mandatory boss that the player is forced to kill. Miyazaki, that's messed up! Even if you complete the DLC for the alternative cutscene, you're still forced to kill him due to a mandatory drop, the Covenant of Artorias. But it's also wrong to take his life, because he's a wolf. Wolves are unnecessarily murdered in the real world for food and other selfish reasons, even if it's 100% possible to keep both them and the ecosystem alive. At low health, Sif starts to limp. During his death, he stands up on two paws for seconds, and then falls down for an atrocious demise. Imagine if Sif was a giant dog. The mainstream and players would be outraged. But since he's a wolf, only furries and vegans really cared. I know most players mourned for his death, but they moved on instead of calling out this insensitive speciesism. Sif boss fight is painful due to its context and implications, similar to tortures other wolves had gone through. The Souls-like genre needs or a pacifist run or a change of enemies. Replace animals with humans and other evil stuff. If animals remain killable, make a bad ending about it, to punish the player and do justice for the animals. Also, stop antagonizing giant wolves. They're cool and awesome. You know what? I give respect to these gigantic fluffy beans. Do I think FromSoft has bad developers and direction? Yes. Do I think Souls-like is a worthless genre? No. Souls-like has so much potential, from its world building, lore, the dark places, the pleasure of discovery, and the adventure itself. But it gets ruined by so much bullcrap. By the lack of innovation, absence of easy mode, the clunky limited movements of the playable character, and the artificial difficulty. I love some ideas used for Dark Souls and the Souls-like genre, but these are ruined by the hyperfixation on difficulty, and that's Souls-less wasted potential. Please, if you're a programmer, learn the basics of video games. Put difficulty settings, fix it bosses, and optimize for lower system requirements. We have to repair the damage that AAA companies have done. Hi, I'm AmoTube, and this video is for both Soulsborne fans and haters. I struggled for 6 months to make this video, but I hope I got my point understood with this sort of rant. Shout out to Kaze Emanuel for his Mario 64 optimizations, and I hope Hidetaka Miyazaki is watching me. If he's watching this video, I tell him this. Do not become a gatekeeping hollow. I know you love your Soulsborne and your hardcore fans, but you did damage to the entire gaming industry. Gaming was supposed to be fun, but due to AAA developers like you, I have to worry about high PC specs and clunky gameplay. Check what you did wrong and fix your garbage.